I think don't let imposter syndrome get you down. It can be really easy to talk yourself into not having confidence, and it's really important not to do that. I also think you've got to be really authentic, trust who you are, be yourself, and be empowered to do that. When I look at female leaders across the firm, they often have like a niche or in their subject matter or the way that they communicate and support others, and I think that's what enables them to shine.
Hello everyone, I'm Casey Aston, Senior Executive in the Client Solutions team. I'm delighted to be here today for our next interview in our podcast series Leading Her Way, which celebrates and showcases the journeys and achievements of some of our female leaders at Crowe and highlights the projects being led by our Women's Empowerment Programme. I'd like to introduce you to my colleague Katy Bayliss, our Chief Innovation Officer, who I've worked with for 3 years. Welcome, Katy.
Thanks, Casey. It's great to be here.
So firstly, can I ask you why our Women Empowerment Programme is so important to you and the firm?
So I think this comes back to just bringing your whole self to work, nobody judging that. And if you feel that somebody does, you feel confident enough to call that out, really. Women in leadership generally is much lower than males. In accountancy, according to Accountancy Age, it's around 20%. For Crowe, that's a little bit higher. However, for women in technology and innovation, that goes down to 12%. I was at a Women's Empowerment Day recently in our London office as a WEP event, and that was a mentoring, speed mentoring. And individuals, and more than one individual, came to me and said it's really inspirational to have a female in that kind of role within Crowe.
It's really interesting that you say that it's only 12% of leaders in tech and innovation. I mean, I definitely don't feel like it's a lot higher, like you said, definitely at Crowe. I mean, I know that I've worked in other businesses where you can see that divide, but hopefully more firms take the initiative and the move towards bringing that number up as Crowe are. Moving on to your time at Crowe, what challenges have you faced?
That's an interesting one. So I joined Horwath Client Whitehill in 2001. I was really lucky to be taken on by a female partner and have that role within my own office. And I think that's really important because I didn't feel like I couldn't achieve because I was female. So that started off in that mindset. However, looking back, I think she would behave and dress at times in a way that we'd now consider, or traditionally perhaps would consider, quite masculine in that kind of corporate environment. And then I went to the US with her on a work trip doing an audit, and she was very different. And I think that called out to me that actually was she behaving in that way because she felt she had to, due to the environment and what that meant, how she could get where she wanted to be, that kind of thing. And I think then as time's gone on, I noticed that she became more proud of being female. She felt you could see that she deserved that role and she was much more confident in it. And I think that's paved the way for a lot of us in these kind of roles. Personally, it's probably more around things like being asked to take notes in meetings where I'm the only female, or being interrupted by males and having to have the confidence to be able to go, no, actually, that's not okay. Even now in the operations board, I'm the only female, but I know that in that room my voice is valued. If anybody were to do anything that I didn't feel comfortable with, again, I would feel confident in that room to say, I'm not happy with this. I feel like I would be supported by the members of that team.
How do you think that the WEP programme has supported your career progression?
I think there's a couple of things there. So one is that being a mentor as part of the mentor programme has probably raised my own profile as well. But also allies, I think, bringing to the forefront that women think differently and therefore have that valid perspective I was talking about before, but bring that different perspective at board level. It's shown that diversity at board level creates a much better decision making, and I think that understanding the allies of the WEP programme, understanding that as well, enables you to do the calling out and saying, no, actually, that's not okay. It means that we're all much more educated on what the impact that it can have if people don't understand the challenges that women face.
That's great to hear. Thank you. Could you share with us a personal story, strategy, or really any practical advice for the next generation of female leaders in the professional services firm?
I think don't let imposter syndrome get you down. It can be really easy to talk yourself into not having confidence, and it's really important not to do that. I also think you've got to be really authentic, trust who you are, be yourself, and be empowered to do that. When I look at female leaders across the firm, they often have like a niche or in their subject matter or the way that they communicate and support others, and I think that's what enables them to shine. I'd also practice how you might respond to some of the challenges that you might face in that space. So if you're being overlooked because you're female practice, what you might say in that situation, just to give you the confidence. You can still then be polite. You don't have to be rude about it if somebody speaks to you in a way that you don't think is appropriate or is against how you feel, but at the same way you can have that confidence.
I know we've had many a conversation about it, so I think it's really important about understanding sort of when it's happening and sort of how to find it within yourself to sort of combat that, because like you said, it's a really important thing. So I know that's something that you've helped me with massively. What qualities do you think are important in a leader?
I think it's got to be around the empowerment, and for me that's that key word. We have in our team a framework, we have goals so that we're all working in an aligned way, but there's a lot of flexibility. So if you're somebody who feels confident to go and just work in that autonomy sort of way, then you can do. But if you need more support and that's not what fits you, then that's not how we work. We work in a slightly different way. And I think having that framework means that people can, again, just be themselves. Somebody did say, do you think it's fair to treat everyone the same? And I've said no, well, because everybody is different. It's right to treat people differently, but in order to make sure that you've got a productive team, you need to have those common goals. But at the same time, you want to gain the best qualities from each and every person as a human being, not as a gender or a race or anything else, but very much as a human and what they can bring to that table.
I certainly agree that empowerment is a key element, and I think that is really evident within your team. I know that we're national, so that we're scattered across different offices, and we've all got different sort of things going on at home. So that work-life balance, I think you do a really good job of empowering the team and being able to get the best out of each individual. But I think that's because you understand us at a personal level and not just what our job is to do, essentially. I do think it creates a really sort of open and happy working environment as well. So just for our last question, and it's actually off of our last guest, the question they left for you: how do we get younger members of the Crowe team involved in women's empowerment?
I think more social content like this is definitely a start. Those of us who lead us practicing what we're preaching as well, because that's where you inherently then become a bit more involved in it. But I think it's also important to think about what their ideas are. Maybe it's something we should put into our innovation programme as what can trainees do? Can we have a trainee-led group that kind of brings some of those ideas to the table, and what do they think about it? How do they feel that is in Crowe in terms of the balance, and could we put something new in place that they come up with themselves?
So what question would you like to leave for our next guest?
Yeah, the question I'd like to ask is, how have you built confidence and resilience over the course of your career?
Perfect. Thanks, Katie. That's a really good question. We'll pass that on. So that's all we've got time for today. So thank you so much for joining us, Katie. And thanks to everyone for watching. And I hope you'll tune in for our next interview in this series of Leading Her Way.